The Second Liberian War was a civil conflict that occurred in Liberia from 1999 to 2003, following the end of the First Liberian War in 1996. The war was characterized by widespread violence, human rights abuses, and the displacement of hundreds of thousands of people. Background: Liberia is a small West African nation that was founded by freed American slaves in 1847. For much of its history, Liberia was ruled by an elite group of Americo-Liberians, who dominated political and economic power at the expense of the majority indigenous population. The conflict lasted for 7 years and resulted in the deaths of an estimated 250,000 people. After the war ended in 1996, Taylor was elected president, but his rule was characterized by corruption, human rights abuses, and a worsening economic situation. In 1999, a rebel group known as the Liberians United for Reconciliation and Democracy launched an insurgency against Taylor's government, igniting the Second Liberian War. The Second Liberian War was characterized by widespread violence, including massacres of civilians, child soldiers, and the use of rape as a weapon of war. The conflict also led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of people, with many fleeing to neighboring countries as refugees. The conflict was largely fought between government forces loyal to President Charles Taylor and rebel groups, including the LURD and another rebel group known as the Movement for Democracy in Liberia. The fighting was intense, with both sides committing atrocities and engaging in brutal tactics. International intervention. The Second Liberian War drew international attention, and a peacekeeping force was deployed by the United Nations in 2003. The force, known as the United Nations Mission in Liberia, was tasked with maintaining peace and facilitating the disarmament and demobilization of combatants. The intervention of UNMIL was instrumental in ending the conflict. In August 2003, Charles Taylor resigned as president and fled into exile in Nigeria, paving the way for a transitional government to take power. Aftermath. The Second Liberian War left a devastating legacy, with an estimated 250,000 people killed and many more displaced or traumatized by the violence. The conflict also had a profound impact on the country's economy and infrastructure, which was severely damaged by the fighting. Despite the end of the conflict, Liberia continues to face significant challenges, including political instability, corruption, and poverty. Conclusion. The Second Liberian War was a tragic period in the country's history, characterized by widespread violence and human rights abuses. The conflict was sparked by deep-seated political and economic grievances, as well as the legacy of the First Liberian War. While the conflict ultimately came to an end through the intervention of the international community, the legacy of the war continues to be felt in Liberia today. The country continues to face significant challenges as it seeks to rebuild and move forward, and the lessons learned from the Second Liberian War will remain important as the country works towards a more peaceful and prosperous future.